Some brands start with a product, others with a moment that changes everything. Today's guest didn't set out to build a whiskey brand, a series of events, or a movement. What started out as something very personal turned into something much bigger. A community built around the outdoors, resilience, and bringing people together. Today, we're sitting down with Kevin Stang, the founder of Team Whiskey. I will get into how it all started from the early days of building an identity through apparel to creating a community around archery shoots and eventually expand into a large-scale event like the Team Whiskey Bonanza. And of course, we'll be pouring their bourbon, the Sportsman's whiskey. And we'll talk about what it takes to get into the whiskey industry and build something that actually means something. This is a conversation about building something from the ground up, learning through failure, and creating something bigger than yourself. I'm Joel Potter, and invite you to pour yourself your favorite glass as we talk some Bourbon and Ballistics.
I cross state lines with hillbillies and guns. It's been a hell of a ride and a whole lot of fun. They gave me many names down there in Dixie, but the main one that stuck on me was whiskey.
All right, Kevin Stang, Team Whiskey. We have been trying to plan this for
a long
time, and we did this last year, and through technical difficulties didn't get that one to come through. So yeah. I've wanted to kind of give everybody some time. I know you guys have had a lot going on.
Yeah.
But so we're going to kind of recap that. I think that a lot of that conversation was definitely worth keeping, and we'll try to recreate that the best we can, because I think your story in itself is one of those stories that, like I was saying before we started here, is one that I think people need to hear. I mean, you have come so far and gone through so much to get to the point that you're at. And I think that it's one of those things that, for us that are, lucky enough to know you, that get to spend time with you, we know the kind of guy you are. But I think that to the people that, you're constantly reinventing yourself. You have a lot going on, and I kind of want to go through your humble beginnings and how you got here. Your story is triumph. It's a beautiful movie, And so, Kevin Stang, thank you for sitting down with me.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, Team Whiskey kind of started out as a joke on a hunt. Obviously, consuming a lot of whiskey around a campfire, and basically, that was probably going to be the best part of the hunt. The weather was terrible. It was your typical windy, rainy, snowy, sleety, 30, 40 mile an hour wind. So, the whiskey that night was probably the best part of the hunt. And we woke up the next morning, I jokingly called us Team Whiskey, and that was what kind of what started, it was just a joke within our little hunting group, and then a joke in our inner circle, and just kind of stuck around. And that was in the fall of 2017. And then February 2018 made some shirts with the logo on it, just as a joke, and through our inner circle. And then 3.5 weeks after that, my wife got diagnosed with stage 3C metastatic ovarian cancer. So found that out, and then was trying to get her to be looked at by the oncologist, and they were saying I needed all kinds of referrals and stuff. And I said, well, you know what, I'm just where do you do surgery? I'm taking her. So we took her down, just loaded up a bunch of clothes, got down there, and I stayed there the whole time. So it was 31 days, and after a couple weeks, and she had 2 major surgeries, and then the doctor kind of just said, hey, if she doesn't get up and walk, she's not going to get out of here. So we looked and found a walker, and kind of jokingly said, Team Whiskey Physical Therapy is going to get you up and walk you. And then eventually, as we did get her up and walk her, we kind of just had left these Team Whiskey shirts on, and just kind of rallied people there on the oncology floor. As the doctors that weren't our doctors, nurses weren't our nurses, they'd come in and say, hey, how's Team Whiskey doing today? We'd go past another patient's room. We'd hear, hey, go Team Whiskey. So we just kind of found that it bonded people together. And then once we did get her out, after 31 days, that first stint in the hospital, we checked, and nobody had trademarked the name. So we went through that process. And then we started at the Fandango in Carson City and that's where we met Jeff. You know Jeff Herbert, yeah. And we didn't know if anybody's gonna like it. All we had was 2 hats and 4 T-shirts. We didn't have anything really, just an idea. And then people would come up and ask us, well, what's Team Whiskey? And it's like we just kind of just evolved through the people. It's like it's like the original brand for people that are outdoor sports and whiskey enthusiasts. And so we kind of took all the great things and put them into one. And I think too, it's the people that are attracted to the brand. It's the people that are attracted to the brand are some of the best people I've ever met, and even just some people I've just met in passing, just doing an event, talking to them in the booth, and we get all kinds of stories of people coming in and telling us, their hunting stories or their, cancer stories or, their fishing stories or, where they're going next, and or they've met people or they've had worn our gear and said, so many people have come up to us and said, hey, Team Whiskey, I know those guys, or hey, what is that? Where did you get that? So, it kind of, it's kind of created this like family, and it's spreading. It's definitely growing, and we're just trying, to get the word out because Mary did pass away in 2021, and we eventually started a cancer foundation, and kind of like in her honor. And so we want to try to help as many people as possible, and it's really hard because we're new and we don't have any sponsors, and we do everything organically through our shoots and our proceeds. So it's definitely been one thing that turned into the next, and then it also turned into we got some bourbon.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so
yes, sir.
And this is our 8-year barrel proof that we actually just bottled last year. Same mash bill, just straight out of the barrel, and you can actually see if you look in the bottom of the bottle there, you can see a little char in there.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah,
So walk me through this, because your flagship is a staple in my house. I mean, it's something that's always there, and we have shared plenty of that together. But this is newer to the market.
Yeah.
So let's start there, and then we'll kind of backtrack a little bit. I want to get a little bit more of your story too. But so walk us through this because this is exciting news for you guys.
Yeah. So we knew that we wanted to come out with a barrel strength because we liked it right out of the barrel, and then the confirmation was 2 years ago at our Bonanza, we were pumping some 5-year right out of the barrel, and everybody's like, hey, that's the best whiskey here. So, and we didn't have like a vote. There was no like awards. Ours is all about like coming out and having a good time. Our tastings, they're not like, we don't want people to win awards. We're just all together in it. And so we're like, hey, we were going to wait till 10-year, and 10 years does start to get to the edge where I think the whiskeys I've tasted, the bourbons, I should say, because I'm not a big Scotch guy. The ones that get to be 10, 12, 15, 20, 25, they just become a little bit to me, less complex because they're just kind of more oak. Mm-hmm. It's like just more oak and more oak. And actually, when we we went and came out with the mash bill, we did the Pappy Van Winkle tasting all the way up to 25 years. Somehow I got stuck with that tab. I don't know how that. It's like
he's got it.
Yeah, I was like, I was like, oh, okay, I got stuck with this one.
That's funny.
But you could appreciate it. I could appreciate it, but it's not something that, would be like a regular drink. You know what I mean? I think that's, some people it may be their regular drink, and,
Good for them.
Yeah, good for them. But Team Whiskey, we're for the team, so we're, the beginning drinkers and, all the way to the advanced. And we actually just put this into a spirits competition, and we're going to probably have some news at the end of the month about that.
Fantastic. We'll keep us posted on that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, before we get into the year, I think, let's talk about the beginnings of the whiskey, and then we'll work backwards, because this is the Bourbon and Ballistics podcast, and this is the exciting part of it. But so you guys,
I think we should have a...
Shit, yeah. May as well, huh? We're here.
So, you know, it took every time we would do an event, somebody would come in and they would say, "Hey, if you put that, put that logo on a bottle of whiskey, I'd buy it." Well, not being the sharpest tools in the shed, it took a couple thousand times to hear it, you know.
Yeah.
And so before Mary passed away, she's like, you know, you guys should go forward with the whiskey. And she's like, bring in Whiskey Kenny, and we all love Whiskey Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
He's healing himself now, so we've decided to do it, and we're like, well, we got to like have a whiskey. But then our thing is like we didn't want a whiskey for you know whiskey snobs, and then like other people can't get it, because we had a lot of people that are attracted to whiskey, Team Whiskey, because they drink Jack and Cokes.
Mm-hmm.
But doesn't mean that they can't or don't want to learn about bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
it's approachable. I mean, your guys' flagship's approachable. It's affordable.
Yeah,
and it's it has a profile that I think, like you said, that you can do a lot with it. It's good around a campfire.
Yeah,
it's good on the rocks. It's good for mixing. It's not, you're not feeling like you're wasting by not actually getting the full experience if you were to use it as a mixer.
Yeah. So my nephew was just kind of the Jack and Coke guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like never really drank bourbon. My son was just kind of starting, and then me and Kenny, you would say, was a little bit more advanced. And so we went out and was like, well, it's not going to be good if just me and Kenny like it, or you guys like it and we don't like it. Like everybody's got to like it.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever we'd find one that everybody liked, we'd try to find a mash bill. Sometimes you can find it, sometimes you can't. But usually it was a medium to high rye mash bill. And that's how we came up with it, because, the beginning drinker, he was like, the rye, the little spicy on the front end, it's not so, sour mashy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then it finishes with that corn and that mash on the, and caramel flavors. Some people taste vanilla. We had one guy that's one of our brand ambassadors. He's got a huge whiskey collection. And he called it a dessert whiskey. So he was like, for him, it was sweet. But then, his palate's going to be, something that's probably more advanced than a lot of people. But it does have, like, some people have even asked, like, do you put, like, some kind of vanilla in it? It's like, no, it's just the way.
It's pulling from the oak.
Yeah. And really, we were trying to drink it at, we were trying to drink it at 4 years, and we're like, it needs something. It was still just like a little ethanol. It wasn't very complex. And then we tried, it was like, well, do we add more corn to it or add more rye? It's like high school chemistry class at Kenny's house. And then so the year went by, we didn't have any more left. So we asked for another bottle out of the barrel, and Kenny's like, called me, and he's like, dude, you got to get down here and taste this. I think we figured out what it needs.
Really?
Is one more year.
Time.
Yeah. So, and that's, the thing. Most people do bottle their bourbons in 2 to 4 years. Especially like small brands like us, a lot of them, it's hard. It's not, this business is not for the small guy.
Mm-hmm.
It's made for the big guy that has millions and millions of dollars to invest in whiskey.
Yep.
As much as I would like to say at some point at the end of my life, I spent, $10 million on whiskey. We'll see, maybe.
Right. Time will tell. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point that you make too, because, distilling in itself is complex enough, but then, doing whiskey, having to wait before you're putting all your effort, all your eggs in that basket, and you don't necessarily even get to know what you're producing until, until you start waiting for that process to go.
Cheers.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
The dessert whiskey. It's very good. It's very good.
Well, this one's got more heat.
No, it's got a good body.
Yeah.
And like you're saying,
still got the spice on the front end.
Mm-hmm.
It's still on the back end. It still smooths out.
It does.
But yeah. I mean, I think more and more people are, the premium, the super premium, not the ultra premium. So the super premium whiskeys, or what's kind of fueling the market right now, the $50 to maybe $100, $150 bottles. And then, then you're getting into the ultra premium, where, you're spending, who knows?
Who knows?
Like 45. I know a buddy of mine has a couple bottles of Pappy, and I think he spent like over $4,000 on them. So it's a lot of money on whiskey, but some people collect it.
Yeah. And if you got the money, it's a fun thing to show off, I
just
guess.
drink it.
I know.
That's the problem.
That's the problem. And I think that's what makes you guys so cool.
Yeah.
Is that you don't feel bad when the bottle's gone. You don't feel bad to have to go get another one.
Get another one.
You know what they are. Yeah. So it's very cool.
Yeah. And that's what, we wanted, because a lot of, barrel proofs that are good are $100 or more, so we wanted to try to make it as affordable as possible. And I think, the true, when we're out doing tastings now that we have two, the true bourbon people, they are saying this is smoother than the 95 proof. Well, it's 93 proof on the bottle, but all batches have been right at 95, just because we don't want to try to take a chance of getting it too low.
Now, I think that one of the things that strikes me as interesting is you guys come into this, decide, hey, we're going to go start getting into whiskey, and it's the timing seemed like it's right around the COVID era, and the craft brewing is taking off because everyone's at home doing stuff, right? So, but now we're starting to see in a lot of the articles I'm reading, that balloon has kind of popped per se. The big distilleries that you're talking about, those $1 million guys, overproduced to try to keep up with demand for everybody that was drinking. And now everybody had to go back to work. And so are you noticing anything from that side of the market?
I mean, not really for us, because we're new. So our cycle is new.
Right.
So, I think our cycle of growth in it is new. So it's not really affecting us, but I do know that whiskey's still increasing. I think the thing of it is, I think that you're going to see it come down, because it's a commodity.
It is.
So it got to the point to where I talked to the guy that for MGP, which they make all the whiskey, most of the whiskey in the country, percentage wise, right? And when I talked to him, he's like, yeah, he goes, I told you. He goes, man, if you would have contacted me 10, 15 years ago, he goes, we had all this whiskey sitting in there, aged whiskey sitting in there, because they bought out the old Seagram's distillery, which has been a distillery for 170 years. This is where our whiskey gets distilled. And it's on the river, on the confluence of the Great Miami River and the Ohio River. And the reason it's there, because for 170 years, they've been barging grain to the distillery.
Oh, cool.
So, that's how they get their grain, because they make a lot of whiskey, right? And so he said, he goes, I couldn't give it away. He goes, but then all of a sudden it changed. So, yeah, it changed. And I do think it's going to be, I look at it as it's like 10 or 15 years behind the microbrew. Because, the microbrew, even though it kind of, the real giant growth, it still had growth, and there was still microbrews starting. There's still going to be the brands like us, the people that are going to try to do craft whiskey, try to do it right, try to take the time of what it takes to get it. And so I do think that there's going to be a market for that.
Sure.
And I do think too, whiskey, I mean, it's like the only keto drink. It's actually, really, it is for me, since I turned 50 over a decade ago. It's the only thing I can really drink. I still love a glass of red wine with a deer steak, an elk steak, or something like that.
Sure.
Or
Pairs well, yeah.
steak,
Pairs well.
yeah.
Sure, yeah.
But very seldom I drink beer unless I'm in Germany, and if I'm there, then I would probably drink some beer. But we're doing something really physical, so I'm not a big beer drinker. So I used to be.
Yeah.
But then you get older and you just can't digest it.
I know. It's tough.
It's
good stuff, yeah.
And I think now the more stuff we're putting in our system makes us less enzymatic, so it takes it's harder for us to digest stuff. So
I agree. Yeah.
I think there's a lot of gastrointestinal issues that people have. So
Now let's okay. Now that we got some introduction to the whiskey, I did want to let's go backwards, because I think that going back to your beginnings, because we're here in Lake Tahoe, South Lake Tahoe,
Yeah.
and I want to see, because you're not from here,
No.
right? And so tell me, how did you end up here of all places?
So, I always wanted to live in the mountains. And so ever since I was a kid, we drive to Florida every year to see my aunt. And my favorite part was going through the mountains, Tennessee, and so. Then,
That's where you were born, in Tennessee?
No, I was born in Ohio.
Okay.
And then whenever I, 15 years old, and then when I was a kid, I was always, who's going to go farther down the creek and catch the most frogs and snakes. And, I was always trying to go farther and farther, and so for me it was like I just always grew up in the forest, so I love it. And so I wanted to live in the mountains. I wanted to learn how to ski, because I didn't really learn how to ski till I came out here.
Oh.
The first year I lived out here I was 37, and I skied more in that year than I had my whole life. So you learn. But so yeah, Ohio, and and then you grow up in Ohio. My dad was a Marine, and we all know Marines like whiskey, and my mom liked whiskey, and she liked rum too, but she would drink whiskey too. But I just kind of grew up with it. Everybody kind of drinks whiskey, and so it's like, but back in the day it was Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, and so it's changed a little bit. We've I mean, I still have friends of mine that love. There's a funny story with Kenny. So when we're out on the bourbon trail, we went out on the bourbon trail to come up with the mash bill. And we just started going to the bourbon bars, because you go to a distillery and you get to taste their whiskey and maybe some special whiskeys they have. But, we needed to taste mass whiskeys, like all kinds, right? So you go to the bourbon bars, and there's so many good ones. The Blind Pig in Bardstown, Kentucky, if you're ever there, definitely go there. So, we were out trying to find all these whiskeys. So finally we started out in Louisville, day or two there. We had a camper. We rented a camper, so we were driving from truck stop to truck stop to get showers and stuff in the morning. And then we'd go start drinking bourbon. It's like every day.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Dream come true.
Yeah. So then we wound up in Bardstown, Kentucky, and Kenny, he goes, he said, man, I'm going to get, because he likes Jack and Diet Coke. And I'm like, I don't want one. And he's like, I'm going to get a Jack and Diet Coke. So he orders one in this bourbon bar in Lexington. And the bartender, she had the killer Southern accent. She's like, well, I'll give you the whiskey and I'll give you the Coke, but I ain't going to mix it. So it's so kind of funny.
That's funny.
Because it's like, you grow up in whiskey country, I mean, people don't understand, like, the tri-state there of Ohio with Kentucky and Indiana. That's kind of like Louisville's, hour and a half away, so yeah, so, and, Kentucky, man, is known for whiskey and horses, right?
It's true. Very true. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do believe that, the best bourbon, comes out of, Kentucky. I know they do a lot of really good bourbon out here in the West, and, we have Fry Ranch and stuff, but I do think, the difference in the humidity and the temperature change back east, and it changes every day. So, like, it heats up, high humidity. It's like a sponge that's dry. It doesn't absorb anything, but once it's moist, it sucks a lot of stuff up. So that moist air, every day it heats up. Those barrels suck in a bunch of whiskey. It gets cool at night. Humidity goes down, pushes it out. So that's where you get that complex taste profile, as opposed to out here, which, a lot of the distilleries in the rickhouse, they're putting the humidifiers in.
Yeah, we don't have the humidity here. Yeah, that's for sure.
And I think that humidity, it's like anything, like wine. They say certain soils, certain grapes grow here better, certain grapes grow here better. Climate, soil, it all comes into play. But I think, the aging of the whiskey back east and the humidity change and the temperature change every day is huge.
I can see that. Yeah, I think, to your point earlier of the terroir, it makes a big difference from, you brought up Frey. I mean, phrase, one of my favorites, and it is a night and day difference what they're doing, for the what they're getting for grains here in Nevada versus what you're able to get back east. So it does make a big difference. And I think that to your point of collecting, it's neat. And one of my goals is to try to, go and search out these whiskeys from different parts of the country, or, even get into different Canadians, or, into Southern, Mexican whiskey is starting to really pop up on the market, and using the heirloom, but anyways, the Mexican corn, and just like, what does that taste like? Right.
Yeah.
It's neat because you can pick those same mash bills, you can, and then pull from different grain, different harvests and completely different profiles. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's addicting.
It's like no different than like fine wine,
Mm-hmm.
I worked in fine dining back in the day, and, had to learn a fair amount about wine, and, whiskey is that way. And, it is an acquired taste.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for everybody, but, I think a lot of people, just, their first experience with it was Jack Daniels or Jim Beam. And, it's just like tequila. A lot of people's was Jose Cuervo.
Yeah, the gold, right?
Yeah, and then you start getting into the good tequila, and you're like, oh, this is good,
It actually makes it drinkable, right?
Yeah.
It's funny.
But, so I think, with the whiskey that we're putting out, we're getting ready to release a rye. So we're really working on that. And then, we'll see where it goes from there. But, I think, the two things that we have out right now are really solid. And I think that the price point on them is like for everybody on the team.
Yep.
Right? It's like everybody on the team can get this whiskey. And, the 95, same taste profile, just not the heat as, the 115. And, we will be serving. We always make sure we have our whiskey at our shoots, which we have May 30th and 31st at Heavenly this year. Okay. And so we're getting ready for that. Those are always fun events, and that's the other thing is like people. It's a family event, it's like, even though it's like we have music and we have whiskey and we have archery, there's a lot of these kids that come out and they're really good archers. And archery is helping a lot of people, and the equipment in archery has changed too, to where like everybody can do it. Before it was kind of difficult to pull back a bow because, there was only 10% let off. Now there's 90% let off, and now there's debates about that. And I just feel like if the more people you can get out there, the better off we are. I just feel like that's just the way that I feel. Some people feel like, I don't want people coming into my hunting spot. I get it. I understand it. But the more people that we have do it, is more likelihood of we're going to keep our rights.
Yep.
Because that's kind of what's the big thing that I see is, especially out here, like back in Ohio, when I was an outfitter, like you could have showed up on Monday afternoon. We could have went to Walmart. We could have bought your license, your tag, your gun, your ammunition, your clothes. One stop, an hour later, you'd be sitting in a tree stand. It's not the way it is out here. So, growing up to where, legislation was like, they just kept giving us more deer. So we started out like when I first started hunting, it was like, oh, you can only shoot an 8-point buck. And then it was like, oh, now you can shoot a buck and a doe. And then now you can do 2 does, and now it's like up to 5 does. And then urban, you can shoot unlimited does. Because, and the main reason is because of the insurance lobbyists. So many car accidents because of deer. Like when I would drive out to my farm from Cincinnati, I always said it was 85 miles in 100 years. It was like, it was so cool to get out there because these people are just Appalachian people. But I would see at least 5 to 10 deer dead on the side of the road. Yeah. So that's 5 or 10 claims. Could have been harvested, and insurance companies don't want to give out money. They really are good at collecting money because don't pay your insurance for like a week and see what happens.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you came here. You were already an avid hunter, outdoorsman. It was basically you just get into the mountains out of Ohio.
Yeah.
Your guys's idea when you got, like, what were you doing for work?
Well, my Mary was a chiropractor.
Oh, she was.
So she had a practice, and I also did insurance billing. And so I had some other doctors I did insurance billing for. And then I also had rentals, property rentals. So, that's what we did. We came out here not to make money. We came out here to have a lifestyle. And, now that she's passed, because as you leave family, as you can imagine, there is some negative reactions to that. But, especially because it was my crazy dream. And then when we got out here, we said we'll commit for 4 years. It was Justin's freshman year in high school. So we're like, we're not going to move him in the middle of high school. We're coming here, starts high school. And then, now that, she's gone, is definitely the best thing for her and for me. We had all these amazing days on the mountain, and, living life out here is, you live just down in the valley. Just living out here in this proximity anywhere out here is amazing. And I don't think, most of my friends from Ohio that have never been out here, they have no idea like what it's like. And, it is amazing. It's, to live in the mountains is, is a blessing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, I was actually around this area. I was born up here and moved down to the valley when I was, a couple of years old. But it's amazing to see, people like yourself that come here and are trying to gather that experience. And one of our biggest gripes is, the people that we're getting so many people moving in, which is great because without the economy, we'll die, right? That's just the way that works. But you're losing value too at the same point because you're just, it makes it tough because you want to be as welcoming as possible so that people can experience, because it is, I come up here and it's just, to mountain bike or whatever. And it's just, oh my God, it's so amazing up here, but it's tough to wrap your head around what that looks like big picture because you're constantly battling with different agencies that are, there's people that are in it for the wrong reason. There's, financial money and all this stuff. I think
the biggest thing of it is that I can say is California, as they do everything, they've politicized the environment. And so, now we've taken, and once things get politicized, then like every corrupt angle is out there. That's right? Yep. Right. Like who knows what their angle is, but we know it's usually corrupt. But you see like what happens here with, the TRPA and different things and different agencies and even the wildlife, like the wildlife, they quit hunting bears with dogs. I think it was like around 2010. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not the best at all that, so don't take my word for it, but it was sometime around then. And the bears have increased. I've been here for 26 years, and I can tell you that in the last 10 to 15 years, the bear activity has increased immensely. I actually got woken up and I heard a loud bang. I come running out and I fell asleep. It was one of those perfect Tahoe fall nights, and I had this screen door. I had the door open, so it was my fault. I'll take responsibility for it. So I come out and there's two cubs. One's in, one's got his head coming in.
No shit.
Door. So
is that why it's still busted? No, that's just a long time ago.
So I yelled at them and they went running out, and I shut the door and I turned around and looked, and the 400+ pound mom was sitting at the top of the loft.
No shit.
And so I'm like, okay, so what do I do? So I was like, well, I got to open the door for one, because I shut the door and she looked at me and she kind of looked around that way towards that bedroom up there on the loft. And she's like, well, I don't think there's a way out there. And so I opened the door and I walked this way and I came over here by the couch and I got behind those steps. When I got behind those steps, she started to come down. And when she hit the bottom, of course, adrenaline is going crazy. And she gets to the bottom and I scream as loud as I could. I mean, kind of strained my voice. And she got scared and she peed on the floor. And she put her head down and sulked out like a dog, like, oh, I didn't know I was allowed in the house. Dang. So, and that was a year after a bear broke into my truck, which was like 3 or 4 payments from being paid off. climbs in the cap, opens up both sliders on the cap and the cab, gets in, and I think what it was is Heaven Hill was one of our sponsors for a while, and they gave us these little pocket screwdrivers to give out as swag. And they were orange, bright orange. And I think the bear saw that bright orange because they bit into that bag and realized, like, oh, shit, this is metal, even though it looked orange, because we didn't have any food in there. And then tried to get out because the doors were locked. It went, ballistic, and then totaled the truck out. It was totaled out. To fix it was more than what it was worth.
No shit.
So, and it was 4 payments from being paid.
Oh, man.
So it was like, boom.
Dang.
But I did see that truck out.
Dang.
So somebody bought it. And somebody, probably a body person, right?
Yeah.
Because the dash was ripped off. Every door was ripped off. Every seat. The back seat, because eventually they squeezed their fat butt back through. And you could see where they're kicking their back feet. The back seat was shredded all the way down.
Trying to squeeze?
All the way down to
gosh.
where you sit. The back part of the seat was shredded all the way down to where you sit your butt. So it was pretty funny. I was like, man, I wish I would have had that on camera. That
Dang, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how smart. Watching them when they get into vehicles. The way that they do it sometimes. They're able just to. Tuna can, just burp, right? Yeah. Rip open the doors.
And they know how, I watch them, they got these bear-proof, garbage containers, and they go down and boom.
Yeah.
I watch a bear walk down the street, check every door handle, see if it's open.
Crazy.
So they know. Mm-hmm. And, the thing of it is we shouldn't be having those kinds of, incidences. And, a lot of people were going to say, oh, well, they were here first. It was like, nah. There's been natives here for over 10,000 years, and bears were a part of their diet, and the bear fat part of their hygiene, and the hides part of their clothing. Right? So they weren't here before humans. So people get in that argument. It's you don't realize is there was a balance, and the balance is gone, and then the balance is gone because of politics. And it's not because of science or what's right, Some states get it, and and they are always constantly tweaking it, which is good, It's like, oh, okay, man, we're down our numbers, what we're seeing, blah, blah, blah. Make those adjustments. But now they're saying with the overpopulation of bears that there's mountain lions are killing more deer because bears are running them off. So, what do we do?
Yeah.
It's like when you got to fight. It should be up to the people that actually are in charge of that actually study the biologists. They should be the ones making decisions, of what's right. But, there's just too much politics involved with it. So. Yep.
Makes it tough. And I think that, there's the humanistic aspect of it. People are, even to the wild horses, right? Those wild horse advocates, watching the same kind of thing. How many of those are dead on the side of the road as you're going, start heading east out on the highways, and they round them up, they move them, and they come back and they're aggressive and they're fucking up everybody's yards. And it's the same exact arguments that you were saying for the bears. There has to be some sort. If you can't have it both ways. You can't grow the population.
Yeah.
And maintain those same numbers. It's not the way it works. And I think people are afraid to have that argument. Looking at, you want to see the growth, the community continue to grow and prosper and all this, but at the same time not impact the wildlife, right? That's not how it works.
Yeah. It's a hard one because everybody has their opinion about it, but. If you really just think about the way it is, and everybody has a warm, fuzzy outlook on wildlife, and I think Nugent always calls it tooth, fang, and claw. And that's what it is. It's not. They're fighting for their lives out there. And it's that's part of the circle of life. And it's part of it. Now we've put ourselves at the top. And, and that's what's so cool about archery is you go back through mankind and the start of it. When did we start to become is when we created archery. Archery changed everything. And then, that put us at the top of the food chain. Now we could kill predators and game that we couldn't hardly kill before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, with a spear or with a bow, it's a big difference, right? You know, so you lengthen that, you know, within 5-10 feet, you know, now 20 to 40 yards. Can you imagine that?
Mm-hmm.
And then now, you know, we got rifles and, you know, that can reach out so far. But, you know, the archery is what changed it. That's what changed mankind. And we were able to, you know, get more meat.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually, it was last year. I was we actually got to visit Stonehenge, and I was like, so I don't know what everybody thinks about Stonehenge, but I just think it's like kind of crazy that this hunter-gatherer population would move these big giant rocks. Like, if they did it, my God, that was amazing. Because, and then so when we were there, we're in like the traditional hut of what they found, that they're saying the people that built it, that lived by, and they built it, and this is what they lived in. But then they had this great stonemason ability, and I'm like, well, why would they live in a thatched hut, right? You know, it's like,
yeah, you can make this, but you live in this.
Yeah, you know,
that is interesting.
But then I was always saying, what I'm trying to get to is like, they were hunters and gatherers. Like, you know how hard that is? Mm-hmm. Like, that's a daily job. Mm-hmm. They can't take off through, okay, we killed enough like for 3 months. Let's go move these, you know, 30-ton blocks, 200 miles.
You guys do that. Yeah. What a funny point.
Yeah. And I when I said that, the guy was like, you know, he's like, oh, you know, and he started saying, it was like, oh, it was aliens. I was like, yeah, listen, I'm not saying, I'm just like, I'm proposing a question here. Like, if they could cut 20-ton rocks and move them, why wouldn't they cut a bunch of 30-pound rocks and build a house, right?
Stonemasons, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, interesting.
You know?
Yeah. So let's talk about the archery shoots.
Yeah.
Because that is, I think they're really interesting. I think people that I talk to about them, I mean, there's a lot of questions, and I think that's a good opportunity for you to talk about, first of all, how did you dream this up? Like, where did the archery shoots come from?
You know, I was a whitetail outfitter in Ohio, and I had like 370 acres that had joined up to like 65,000 acres of state forest. So I had people, I'd take people in, and I'd provide them meals and lodging, and, you know, if they wanted to go to state forest land, we'd go there. But I had a lot of, you know, nice places to hunt. And I only took like one group a week, so I didn't have a lot of people. And part of it, what I would do is I'd just like, hey, man, I'm going to start setting some of these 3D deer targets I have up in the woods, you know, and then we'd go shoot them. As, you know, it's just as for fun, you know, and walk and shoot them. And so, you know, when we started Team Whiskey, I was like, you know, we should do a 3D archery shoot. You know, I mean, I just think it would be perfect. And, you know, with these mountains and like where I can put the targets and, you know, the courses we come up with. And, you know, that's the creative part of it, is like, you know, how we make them thread shots between trees and, you know, use the shadowing. It's like, oh, you see it, and then, oh, I can't see it. And so it's like, makes it hard when you pull back and you're looking through a peep sight, you know? So, you know, I reached out to Homewood, because we started in 2019. I reached out to Homewood 2019. I said, hey, you know, would you guys be interested in doing an archery shoot? Of course, they didn't know anything about it, blah, blah, blah. And we always wanted to call it the Team Whiskey Shootout. And they said, no, we can't let you name it that. And we're like, why? And they're like, well, that designates that you're going to be shooting arrows at each other. And I was like, well, just because you guys don't know what a 3D archery shoot is, everybody else coming does, you know? So that's how we came up with the High Sierra Archery Shoot name, because they kind of forced us that way. And so it was during COVID, and, you know, COVID hit, and then we had a date and everything, and then, you know, it already paid them some money, so they were kind of sucked in, and then COVID hit, and they're like, well, we can't do it when we're going to do it. We got to push it back, so we pushed it back. And they still weren't going to let me do it. They weren't going to give me a permit, but then I was in Placer County. That was in Placer County, and, you know, I just said, hey, you know, it's like, we got every thing covered here. We got people wiping down the chairs, you know, they're walking, it's already social distancing. You know, we're they're walking like a 4-mile course. And so I pushed it through, and because like they couldn't really come up with, even though they kind of like denied it all the way to the end. And I did reach out to one guy, and I can't remember his name, but he was a representative, and I could just tell that he was probably a Team Whiskey guy. Okay.
Yeah.
So I reached out to him, and he's like, "Hey, it's not my jurisdiction, but here, reach out to her. Here's her direct phone number and email." And so I reached out, and then I got a response back. And they said, "Yeah, we're going to let you go through." And so we went through with the first one. We had to have hand sanitizer at each target, which what's funny is that when we started breaking down the courses, like the first couple, there was arrow holes through it. And then we realized like everybody started shooting at the hand sanitizer bottles. So it's about every hand sanitizer bottle had an arrow hole through it.
That's funny.
But we had people wiping the chairs off up top. It was just kind of crazy
What a shit
times,
show.
right?
Yeah.
But it was like, if anything promotes social distancing is this.
Yeah.
Right? You
Yeah.
know, it's like you're walking a course and, people are getting off a chair and they're out in the middle on a mountain. So, yeah. So it took a little bit, but we got it through. And then the first one was like, okay, people liked it. And then, then we did Homewood. That was 2020. We did Homewood 2021 and 2022. And then we switched to Heavenly in 2023 because they got bought out by that big group that they make all those exclusive ski resorts. And, of course, Team Whiskey was not welcome anymore.
So for people that don't understand the 3D target, can you explain that to where somebody that doesn't do archery would know?
Our shoots are, we combine all the sports. Instead of a tee time like golf, you get a lift time. Show up early. We got a practice range just like you would at golf, and then go get on the lift. When you get to the top, it's kind of like skiing. So you got a black, a blue, or a green to choose from. So, and then all paths lead back down to the bottom where we have live music, vendors. We also have this thing called split the pot shot. We set up a target up over 100 yards, and we draw a little crosshair in the center ring with a Sharpie. Whoever's close to it at the end of the day splits the pot with the foundation. And at Heavenly, it's the Give Hope Foundation. And this year we have Shields sponsoring it. So they're going to match up to $2,000 that we can raise for the split the pot shot. And it's $10 an arrow. You can shoot as many arrows as you want, but we only shoot 3 at a time. We just don't want somebody up there just like completely, because everybody's getting really good with archery, so we don't want somebody up there down and then center punching it, and then we don't raise money. So it's like, the wind changes and everything changes. Archery is a little different than shooting a rifle. So it's an extra thing to raise money. And then, it's kind of a little bit of a spectator event too, because we set up some chairs there and you can, if you bring your binos and stuff, you can see where they're hitting, which is really cool.
And it's all ages.
All ages. If they can pull back a bow and shoot, then they can come.
Huh.
Yeah.
Very cool. When is it?
May 30th and 31st at Heavenly, and then June 13th and 14th at Bear Valley. And then July 18th and 19th at China Peak. China Peak and Bear Valley, we have the Moonshine Bandits planned, so that's going to be amazing to see the Moonshine Bandits at 7,000 feet above sea level.
Sound even better, I bet.
Yeah, and then especially, the views that are going to be around where these guys are going to be playing is going to be amazing.
If you haven't, the Moonshine Bandits are a very fun, they're like a country, like hip hop, I think is like the genre.
Yeah, I think Upchurch is the one that coined that.
Okay,
but
they're fun. They're
country rap or country hip hop they call it. If you know about Hicks, from the Sticks.
They're very fun,
but they're also patriotic.
Yep,
they're very patriotic, and I feel like us being in California and them being in California, that we're kind of like both of us are kind of behind enemy lines,
that's right. Yeah.
So to speak.
Same team, yeah.
Yeah, we're the same team.
Yeah.
So, maybe, not completely cross, but we did get a girl email. This is the cool thing about Team Whiskey is like we always have these amazing things that happen. And I'll talk about a few of those at our events. But we had a girl email us, and she's like, I just want to make sure, because if you buy a ticket to our shoot and you go shoot, your concert ticket is included. If you want to just come to the concert, it's $25. Come to the concert. We will be selling tickets at the door. But buy your ticket ahead of time and save yourself some headache and some quicker times into the door. And but we had a girl reach out to us. She's like, I just want to make sure that, my archery shoot ticket includes ticket to the concert. We're like, yeah. She's like, oh, great. She's like, archery and the Moonshine Bandits are my two most favorite things. So like, we nailed it for her.
Yeah, that's awesome. Dream come true.
Yeah. So,
how cool.
So the archery shoot, so like a couple, like just to talk about some of the amazing things that happen at our events is, just at the Bonanza that we just did at the Reno Livestock Event Center, the lady shows up. We don't know who these people are when they show up. We recognize some people that we've seen before at our events and stuff. And so this lady shows up and she's in a wheelchair, got oxygen. She's coming by. We see her. She's enjoying herself. Well, she was there to see Steve Ray Latson because we brought in Steve Ray Latson, and she got right in front, and at one point I actually saw her up out of her wheelchair dancing.
Nice. Which
is like amazing. Then we got her to get backstage to meet Ray
How
Latson
cool.
and everybody in the back. And she was crying, I was crying. It was just an amazing thing because it's like, we're just putting on an event, and then she's like, I got the VIP experience without having to pay a VIP experience, and it was like, that's what's really cool about it, because there's always these special things that happen. We've had wedding proposals at our shoots. We've had gender reveals at our shoots. So we have these like family things that happen all the time. And, 2 years ago, we had a little kid. He was out on the course with his dad. And somebody came up and tipped one of our guys out there with, because we always have guys out there with waters and Gatorades and stuff roaming the course. And so they tipped and he's like, no, we don't take a tip for this, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay. And then so, they gave him they put $10 in the UTV, which they gave it to this little kid that was there getting a drink. And they said, here, go buy a raffle ticket. Maybe you'll win something because of our raffle that we have at the bottom. So he goes down to buy a ticket, the girl at the ticket, because he was such a cute kid. Like he's like 5, 6, 7, somewhere around there. And she's like, no, I'm going to give you a ticket for free. Go buy yourself something to eat or drink, And so she gives him a ticket. And so whenever I have pulled the tickets, I usually pull a kid up. So I pulled him up on the stage. And so the final prize that night was a Matthews Lift 29.5 bow, which I don't know the retail, but it's $1,500 or better.
Okay, so it's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I'd take it. So his last name, he goes and pulls in. He pulls it out. He gives it to me. He looks at it. He's got these big eyes, and he hands it to me because I was calling out the name, and it was him.
No shit.
Yeah, so I was like, so it went from him getting $10 to go buy a raffle ticket to getting a free raffle ticket to getting something to then pulling his name out.
Dang, lucky little kid.
Yeah, so it's like these are the kind of things that happen, and they happen all the time. It's like there's a lot of, and people make friends. I was at China Peak, just wearing the gear, Team Whiskey gear. You make friends. Guy who said he was at when I was at China Peak last year. He's like, yeah, I just got back from Mexico, and I was at the resort, and I was in the pool area, and I looked over, and I was like, what is this guy looking at me for? And he's like, I started looking at him, and then I noticed like he had a Team Whiskey hat on too.
Oh, cool.
So they started and then they wound up hanging out together, and they're talking about going on vacation together. So it's like kind of the thing. Like they were from different states, but they both had Team Whiskey gear on, and they met, and they wound up becoming friends.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. You brought up the Whiskey Bonanza, and I'm glad you did, because this was the third year of it, the second year up in Reno, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about that, because I think that's a really fun, a local event for us that everybody that isn't from here should know about and try to make it make it a trip.
And Kenny he runs that thing. He takes the ball with that. He does a great job. I mean, like this year we had, not only did we have line dance lessons, we had some partner dance lessons, and we had DJ, we had live music, and then we had a headliner, Steve Ray Latson. Kenny got him to come in and from South Carolina, and he was America's Got Talent finalist, so he rocked it. So yeah, it was we were kind of competing this year with a Easter weekend.
Yeah.
So it kind of fell on a weird weekend, but we still had a lot of people there, and it still was like a really good time. And you get to come there. We set up a little archery range. We got rock wall climbing, and we have a mechanical bull, a golf simulator, wave simulator. We had like a little football throw, some soccer kick, and what else we have? Oh, bouncy house. Got to have a bouncy house, right? Just, to see little kids in a bouncy house, right? And what a great way to strengthen their immune system. Put them all in a bubble together.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So if you could explain the Whiskey Bonanza, in a few words, I mean, what actually is it for the whiskey enthusiast?
Yeah, so it's a way that we wanted to make a whiskey. We were tired of the whiskey events being all foofy, and they're paired with a nice meal. That's great and everything, but really to us, whiskey is like people that get out and do stuff, drinking whiskey around a campfire in a clubhouse, after they got done doing something. So we wanted to make an interactive event and make it a family event. So, it's a whiskey tasting, but kids 12 and under getting free. They don't get to taste whiskey though.
It's a deal breaker for a lot of people.
Yeah. So, but kids at 12 and under getting free, and once they get in, all those events that I told you about, they don't have to pay to do them. They're all provided. So just to see kid that's going to get exposed to climbing a rock wall. He may never have done it before. Shooting a bow, riding a mechanical bull, out line dancing. Getting people out line dancing, learning line dancing. Some people come because they want to learn line dancing, right? The wave simulator, the golf and the football and the baseball things that were there. There's they get to try all that stuff, and it's not like, the parents have to reach in and grab a 20 out of their pocket every time they want to do something. So it's kind of cool because the parents can go taste the whiskey, the kids can go do all this stuff, and all they got to do is, if they want to do it again, is get in the back of the line and wait.
So we were there as First Time Ballistics last year. And to your point earlier, you bought those little pellet guns or the dart, the Nerf guns. And it was amazing to me how many people came up just because they wanted to learn. They'd never shot a pistol before, right? Yeah. And these things they were like steroided Nerf guns that you had found. And they were fun, super fun. But it was amazing because we had Jeff there, and he was in the booth next to us at ODM Defense, and so he was actually utilizing that as an opportunity to teach people, handling techniques.
You had the chamber.
It was very cool. They had little magazines.
Yeah.
And so it was neat, but there was so many people that came up to us and were like, "I've never shot a gun before." I was like, "This is maybe." That sparked. People have never rock climbed before. People have never gone golfing.
Right, exactly.
You can't find waves really, very often here to go surf, and you have a simulator, right?
Right.
So it seems like a very cool idea. And I mean, do you find an event like that? I mean, and to your earlier point of Ken, really holding this all together, it's a lot of working parts.
Oh yeah.
And to make that, I mean, are you guys finding that traction to see this thing really just becoming more? Or
I think that we may even what we'd probably do is start other venues. We've been eyeing Idaho. I mean, we ship whiskey to Idaho, and we actually ship a lot of clothing there, so we have a little bit of an in with Idaho. So I just think that it's I think it's what people want. I think it's what people really want. And, we get some really good whiskeys, we get some really good food there, have some really good music, and, learn, get out there and try some dance lessons. It might be easier after a couple of tastes of whiskey.
Yep.
At least you're a little less self-conscious, and, it's just mainly get the kids involved. And, just to seeing some of the kids, like I saw little girl last year. I walked around a little bit, and she was at the golf simulator, and watched her miss completely like 4 or 5 times. Guy kept working with her, and eventually she hit it, and you could see the little golf ball, go down the fairway, and on the simulator, and it's like obviously she's never swung a golf club.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying she's going to go be a golfer, but the thing of it is, she got the opportunity then.
Yep.
How long would she have waited in her life until she got that opportunity?
Right. Probably went home and for her birthday or Christmas got some golf clubs, maybe, be
Who
out there.
Who knows? I mean, if she did, great.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is, she got to swing a golf club because, not everybody gets to go swing a golf club.
That's got to be a cool feeling. Being able to bring that to people.
Yeah. I mean, it's, not everybody gets to go swing a golf club. Mm-hmm. It's not a given for everybody.
Right.
Some people, their families aren't into it. So how are these kids going to get into it? Unless their parents put them into it. And usually parents, and this is the way it is, and there's nothing wrong with it, we get exposed to stuff that our parents want us to get exposed to.
100%.
It's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with that. But so it was just that kind of stuff. One little girl, she was savage. I saw her. She was climbing that rock wall with those metal hold-on things or whatever they're made out of there, barefooted. I was like, God, she's a savage.
Jeez, she might have gotten some whiskey.
Yeah, I don't think I could do it, but
that's crazy.
So it's like just seeing people do stuff is really the kind of the thing.
You have lots of vendors there too, right? Shopping.
Yeah, there's all kinds of shopping there. Really cool people there from, health and beauty products to, food and candy. And actually these one ladies, I can't remember the name, and I'm sorry that I don't remember your name, but they made some fudge, but they were going to sell it with our whiskey. And they were going to sell it. And the city and whatever whoever the bureaucratic board that was overseeing them, they finally said they couldn't do it. They wanted some kind of a warning label on it, so they gave me a bunch of this vanilla fudge that was made with our whiskey, and it was freaking amazing.
Wow.
So a lot of people would come in, and they would the wife would be like, I'm not really a whiskey girl, and I'm like, well, here, take a bite of this fudge. And then, just like cheese with the wine, now taste the whiskey. And then they were like, oh my God. So maybe I converted a couple of people over to drinking bourbon too.
So, yeah.
But yeah, it was a great idea. Kenny came up with it, and it was like, yeah. And then as we started just talking about it, and then it was like, yeah, let's have this, let's have that, let's have this, And so, and it was like, yeah, it's a nice, rounded out spot. I would love to have some kind of, laser skeet shooting or something like that. I've seen some things like that, to try to get some people in, because I think that's fun for people.
Yeah.
And but like you said about the dart guns, for me, shooting, the ones that they feel charge, okay, that's great. But there's nothing like when the projectile comes out. So those little Nerf guns, they packed a little.
They were crazy, yeah.
They packed a little.
Pretty crazy.
They packed a little punch.
Like some of the parents, we let the little kids try it, and the parents you could tell they're kind of out of their element, right? The little kid gets back there and lets off a couple rounds, and the kids are going nuts, right? Yeah. The parents oh, I don't know, Yeah. But again, to your point, the kids probably never had a Nerf gun, even, but then they get this really cool high velocity Nerf gun, that they get to shoot, and it made a little cutout. You do?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fun.
I should slip one to Kenny's son so you could hit him on one time.
Get him while he's down, yeah. That's funny. Well, to wrap this up, I think we kind of glassed over the clothing aspect of the company, the humble beginnings of Team Whiskey. And I think that, I have a bunch of your shirts, sweatshirts. You guys got concealed carry jackets. You got this really cool shit, and it's all well made.
Yeah. And I think go on our website, team-whiskey.com, look up the Backcountry Bourbon Flannel. We just came out with that. It's, some design features on it. It's got a hidden pocket on your left chest there that you can actually put a small pistol in or whatever. And then it has a place to hold your sunglasses. It's a fabric that is 65 poly, 32% rayon. That gives you the softness and the breathability, because polyester doesn't breathe all that great. And 3% spandex, so it's got some give. So we made this flannel so you could wear it out hunting, skiing, whatever, and then you can go out to eat with it. So it's a really nice looking shirt. And then on the right shirt tail, we put a little lens cloth so you can clean your
very
lens.
nice.
Yeah,
Good.
because you're always like, your glasses get dirty, you fingerprint them up, you want to clean them. So, or your spotting scope or whatever. So I've kind of demoed them, and then we have some other stuff coming out. We got a whole rodeo line of hats that are going to be coming out here within the next 4 to 6 weeks. We have some really cool SPF shirts along the same lines.
Oh, nice.
The other thing we did on that shirt, that flannel, is we put a snap on. I hate it when a collar shirt, collar starts getting funky. So we put a snap on the underneath so you can't see it on the outside. So it's not like a button. So it's like snap, so it stays, together. And we're trying. We're heading into like what we see as clothing that is fashionable, functional, and you can wear it wherever, and durable. That's kind of the thing. And so if we can hit all those three things with our products, I think that's what our goal is. And of course, we'll be coming up with some more fun designs on t-shirts and things like that. We do have a couple wax cotton. We're going into the wax cotton canvas hats. So we'll have a couple waterproof hats that'll be coming out.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So we're just kind of like plugging along, and the clothing, the apparel is like kind of what fuels everything. We're now in 29 states and 340 locations.
Wow.
So, we're growing in that. So we actually just came out with our websites, a new website. So go check that out. You can actually has an interactive map that you can see all the different stores that we're at. But of course they don't carry everything. So if you really want everything, because we have a lot of products, you can go to the website and buy them up there.
And how about looking at for the whiskey? Is the whiskey available? I mean, how do we find that?
There's
Same thing?
selectdistillers.com is the actual retail spot, but on our website you can find a section on our whiskey, and you'll be able to get to that link.
Okay.
And then on our Team Whiskey Liquors page as well, you can find direct link to it.
Very good. Is there anything that I missed that you wanted to talk about before I take off?
No, I think, really, I just, want to thank, this all started here in Northern Nevada, being an Ohio boy. It's just been kind of great to meet the people here in this area. There's more people like me than what I thought, especially living in Tahoe, especially meeting people in Northern Nevada. Just because that's where we started out doing our events, in Reno. And you're going to probably see us back at some of these events this year. We're going to kind of get back to some more direct-to-consumer events. And then we're also trying, to expand on the retail end as well, as to get into more places. So it's kind of, just trying to get, and our goal of it is that the more money we raise and the more, awareness we get of what we're doing, the more chance we have helping somebody. The only thing that I would want to say is that this year we had a family reach out to us. We don't raise a lot of money every year for our foundation. We usually help out 1 or 2 people a year. Our goal is to raise more. But we had a family reach out to us. They found out through us, just through our brand ambassadors. And they were from Florida, and the father broke his back, had back problem, while the wife was taking care of him. She got Bell's palsy and a mild heart attack. Then the son got stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Oh my gosh.
So by the time they got to us, they were kind of like behind. So usually what we do is we take one bill, and then we'll pay it for up to 6 months. And what we did is we just kind of helped them out with, a lot of their bills, as much as we could, until we're out of money. So The cool thing of it is now we do now on our website, we have where you can go hit a donate now button. I don't care if it's $5, whatever, $5, it's actually going to go directly to somebody that's actually needs help, and we pay their bill. And we pay the bill to the vendor. We don't give the money to somebody in the family, so some dirtbag in the family steals the money. So we pay the bill directly. So any money, every penny you give, because we don't have any overhead. We all volunteer our time to do this. I write out everything, like make sure everything gets paid to where it needs to go, especially when we're helping somebody out. And so, we can actually now, we're actually like a real foundation where you can actually have a go donate now. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, anybody that even give anything, that would be great. We'd appreciate it.
You guys are doing awesome things, and it's a team effort. Your guys' tagline is "We endure," and I think that you guys definitely, are living that, through this company.
Yeah.
You're not falling short on that at all. It's a shame that Ken couldn't be here. That last one was a hoot. Yeah. But we'll get together soon and hopefully be able to get him on a mic.
Really, Kenny and Sally, and of course Bodie. I love Bodie, watching him grow up, and then the people that helped me, Cecia, Jimbo, Santiago, and Joaquin. I mean, it takes people to understand what you want and what you see as your vision, and people that are willing to be self-accountable for their work, and it's hard to manage people, and if you got good people that are willing to do the work, and then that helps. And so those 4 people really help. And then Barbara, since I've met Barbara, she's just been like a blessing in my life. So it's like, it always takes to have somebody close to you, right? Like, to get through the shitty times, right? And so, she's been a blessing. So, I'm blessed, it's like, I feel like, every little thing that happens, there's all these special things that happen. I have one story I got to tell, and because I always feel like, Mary's up above, like stirring the pot. And so we went to our first show where there's buyers from retail locations, major buyers, major locations, could be game-changing stuff, right? And we get down there, and our booth is all, I put it together from Home Depot, and like a couple $100, $300 out of 2x8s and post holders and 4x4s and 1x4s and grid wall, and so it was like, it was, it looks like a hillbilly made thing, right? And so we get down there, and we first day, nobody's even coming in our booth. Like, people don't even want to talk to us. And meanwhile, we're next to Carhartt and Dickies and these major retailers, and they got, their booths are all amazing, right? Like, they don't, they're not putting them together like we are.
No.
And so we're sitting there, and I'm talking with Jimbo, and I'm like, well, maybe we need to invest some money in one of these booths. If we're going to do these things. This is our first one. We're just learning. We don't know. And then all of a sudden, after lunch on the first day, because in the morning, we didn't get to talk to anybody. So we're like, okay, we just spent a ton of money to come here, that we don't have. Yeah. And then, nobody will even talk to it, because like whenever you're trying to sell something, people don't want to talk to you.
Right.
It's general, And so then after lunch, the first day, they come over, the people that were running it, the Mid-States people, and we wound up winning $1,000 check for the best 10x10 booth.
Really?
Yeah. So it was like, so we're like, well, maybe it wasn't, the booth,
How funny.
And then we wound up getting a little traction on the second day. So, it's,
how funny,
getting people, to spend money, and we all know everybody wants to buy Carhartt. Everybody wants to buy, Levi's and Ariat, and, so, we're a little guppy in a big giant ocean, and we're just trying to stay afloat. We're floating, but that was just kind of a cool story.
That's a very cool story.
Of Team Whiskey, of like, we didn't know. I mean, we're just trying to put something together because we can't afford to do anything else.
How fun.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are doing big things. And like I said, if you guys go check them out. If you haven't heard of Team Whiskey, go look at the story. I think, they're from a clothing company to events to now a brand of whiskey. I mean, it's a lot. You guys are doing really big things for a very small, tight circle, for you guys are all doing this, making big things happen. So it is an honor to know you guys and to be able to hang out with you guys. And thank you again for hanging out with me for a little bit today. I know we're getting into the weekend.
Yeah.
And it's, it's been an honor hanging out with you.
All right, man, brother. Thanks.
Thank you. Hey, thanks.
Yeah.